There we go. Welcome in. So, just we move this a little bit. I have to fuck around with my settings a little bit here. It's not letting me capture. There we go. God, that was ridiculous. I hate having to fight with this thing sometimes. Yeah, that's what happens when you don't stream in a while. You forget how to do things. Yeah, man, no problem. So, for everybody who's here, just for the record, okay, I have an ad break starting soon. I'm going to hold off on the ad break. So, for the month of June, we're doing a set of fundraisers. This set of fundraisers is going to be called Fight for Pride. The idea is that each day that I stream, I'm going to sit here, I'm going to blab at you guys a little bit about, you know, queer characters in media, or thank you very much for the follow. We're going to talk a little bit about just like, you know, queer media, whether that's characters, history, you know, things of that nature. I'm also going to talk to you about the organizations that we're raising money for. We have 3 for the month. We're raising money for the Trevor Project, Stonewall Community Fund, and Trans Lifeline. So, how do I describe this? Hey, Kira, welcome in. Very glad to see you. So, for everyone who is unaware, the Trevor Project is an organization that basically they have a like suicide help hotline for LGBT youth, If you guys want more information on the Trevor Project, you can put in !Trevor in the chat, and you'll get a little blurb about them. And there's a link to their official organization page. The Trevor Project does a lot of great stuff. There's a Tiltify page for the fundraiser. And actually, if you put in !Pride, you'll see all three of the Tiltify links that I have for all these fundraisers. So that way, any money that you donate, obviously, I never touch it. It goes directly to the organization. On top of that, we're also fundraising for Trans Lifeline, who offers peer-to-peer hotline assistance and financial assistance to trans individuals. People who are just looking for help, looking to get out of bad situations. That's what Trans Lifeline is for. And the Stonewall Community Foundation has a lot of little bits and pieces for it. They do micro grants for LGBT individuals. They have Stonewall Housing, which is, as stated, it's housing assistance for LGBT people trying to escape bad situations. And for each of them, if you just do, so we have one for the Trevor Project. If you put in !Lifeline, you'll get information for Trans Lifeline and a link to their page. I don't remember if I set up the one for Stonewall. Let's see. I didn't, because I'm a fool. So I will set that up after stream tonight. And when you guys come in tomorrow, that link will be there. There will be a command for them. So yeah, that's what we're doing for the month of June. Is we're going to be participating in these different fundraisers. I'm also if anyone is also an artist in the community, I'm inviting anybody who wants to basically join me on Blue Sky or Twitter, Instagram, whatever your preferred platform is, to draw art of your queer characters, whether it's OCs, fan art of characters that you like that's queer, or if you want to just share your experiences and just tag it's #Fight for Pride. I named it that because I was intending on doing it last year. Oh, thank you very much. I'm glad to hear that you're in for this one. I was going to do it last year, but I kind of artistically lacked the confidence to actually sit down and do it, and I didn't really know how I was going to organize it. So I've been thinking about it a lot over the last year. I didn't get all the things hammered out the way that I wanted to this year, just because I had a lot of life stuff happen. I moved, started a new job. My energy's been fucked because I've been all over the place. So this is a little slapdash, but we're doing it anyway. That said, so I'm inviting everyone to do that. The reason why I'm calling it Fight for Pride is because when I initially conceived of the idea, my plan was to basically just draw various queer-coded characters from specifically fighting games. And then I ran into an issue of I want to draw more if I want to draw gay male characters, there aren't a lot that are canonically gay that I can use for the fan art project. So I was okay, let's expand it a little bit. So now Fight for Pride, if you're going to do the fan art end, the only request is hey, have them be fighting game characters or have them be characters from action-oriented media. So anime, video games, books, what have you. And just make it cool. And I'm going to be spending some time over this period talking about whether it's queer creators or queer characters. We're going to be talking a lot about that. And today, my plan is I'm just going to be drawing for a bit. I'm planning to be here from 8 until 11:30, midnight-ish. But the plan for today is we're going to be exploring arguably one of the oldest trans characters in action media, or at least media that I've consumed, specifically fighting games, and that means we're going to be talking about Poison from Street Fighter. And boy, is the origin of Poison an interesting one. So we'll get to that. Let me just get rid of this weird little line I doodled to get Procreate working. Alright, since we have an ad break, I will be right back, and I'm going to use this time to get some visual references on one of my screens. Alright, I think the ad's over, so either it is or it isn't. I'm sure somebody will correct me if anyone can actually hear me. But yeah. Thanks. It's a wonderful little overlay I got from Stream Elements. I just wanted it to be like kind of vaporwave anime girl aesthetic, and that's what I landed on. I'm just getting some pose references up as well for what we're going to draw today. And then I'll do some like warm-up sketches, and while I'm doing the warm-up, that's when we'll start talking a little bit about the history of this character. Let's see. Oh yeah, this is a good one. So now we're gonna do our warm-ups here. So, like I said, we're gonna be doing some we're going to be drawing Poison from Street Fighter today, so let's talk a little bit about Poison's history as a character from Capcom. One of the things that's interesting is that when Poison was first introduced into the game, she wasn't even really a character, at least not a character in the way that most people would think of a character. The first game that Poison was actually part of wasn't Street Fighter. She was a random enemy type from a game called Final Fight, which is a like kind of beat 'em up River City Ransom style game. And there was a palette swap of Poison in the game called Roxy. The only difference between Poison and Roxy is their hair color, and in that game, their HP amount and like skin tone, because Poison's very pale and Roxy's a little bit more tan. When Capcom initially added Poison and Roxy into Final Fight, the point was to be enemy variety, so you weren't just beating up muscular dudes for a majority of the game. Now, the problem is there was a lot of pushback about this from the community because, like, oh, you're incentivizing violence against women. So, Capcom's way around this, there were two developers that were primarily working on this, which were the character designer, Akira Yatsuda, and then the actual game developer, Akira Nishitani, also known as Nin Nin. And Nishitani defended this decision by basically saying, oh, well, it's fine for the players to beat on Roxy and Poison because they're trans characters. And initially they introduced them as like cross-dressing characters, not necessarily actually being like trans characters, which created a whole other issue as far as like the optics of it. And then we got to the point where we had to port Final Fight over to the United States for our arcade cabinets. And that was another issue that made people look at it and go, why are we doing this? So in the United States, for the first run of this version of Final Fight, they actually didn't even include Roxy and Poison in the game. They replaced them with two other characters. I believe their names were Billy and Sid. And eventually there came this whole thing in Japan where like their defense for including them was like, well, they're not actually women. That became a whole like argument that after a while Capcom initially settled and basically said, okay, Poison and Roxy are both trans characters. Now the problem is that Yatsuda and Nishitani, the two guys that were like the guys behind this decision, were constantly flip-flopping on what that actually meant. So like there's a lot of argument about like, oh well, Nishitani believes that that Poison is a cis woman, and basically says like, oh, you can, it's up to the fans, I'm not really going to make a big deal out of it. And, obviously the fans as a whole have more or less decided as the years have gone on that like, yeah, Poison's trans. You guys put a lot of information into the game kind of hinting at that. And by the same logic, so is Roxy. And when they finally like added more details and fleshed out Poison's backstory, the idea is that, oh, Poison and Roxy are both from the same orphanage. Roxy looked up to Poison when they were kids, and that's like basically how they ended up where they're at. In a lot of modern context, apparently it's still an argument a lot with Capcom about whether or not Poison's trans. Nishitani has washed his hands of the whole thing and is just like, we'll let the community believe whatever they want because they don't want to make a firm statement one way or the other. But in general, the community at large has basically decided that, yeah, Poison's a trans character. On top of that, if you see Poison's like color scheme, she's literally wearing trans flag colors. Her hair is pink. She wears a white tank top and blue jeans. So it's like, yeah, baseline Poison is wearing that. And a lot of like the early stuff dealing with Poison's gender identity was actually done for the purpose of like gags and comedy, which is really weird. There was a lot of like just a lot of weird like insulting comedy around her, like voice lines from other characters or like victory quotes from other characters talking about what fighting Poison was like, or like making weird offhanded jokes about her as a character. So it's interesting to see how Poison went from a character that was basically treated kind of like a weird in-joke to becoming one of the most iconic, like one of the most iconic trans fighting game characters in the modern day. And Poison wasn't a playable character in Street Fighter until I think it was Super Street Fighter 4, because she was in Final Fight as an NPC that you attacked. She was an NPC in, I think it was Street Fighter 2 Turbo was the game itself, and then she wasn't actually playable until Street Fighter 4. And then she came back in Street Fighter 5, the old IDOM special, one of the characters that he took to Capcom Cup during the Street Fighter 5 era, her and Laura. So you got to see a lot of really interesting evolution with how this character was handled and treated. And as time went on, they eventually, took all of the insulting shit and the, frankly, questionable and transphobic stuff about Poison out of the games. And stopped making really shitty jokes and references at her expense. And I believe in Street Fighter V, one of her alternate skins actually is Roxy. So you get slightly more tan Poison with like orange reddish hair, which is pretty cool. So that's just something that I think is really fun to see, like how that character evolved over time. I like Poison from a design perspective. I cannot play Poison for the life of me because her controls are just not friendly for me. Oh, I have the eraser on because I'm a fool. Choose a brush color here. And yeah. And every now and again I am going to put this I'm going to put this command in the chat just to pull up the Tiltify links. I was going to do the fundraising using the charity option for Twitch. The only reason why I'm not is because it only lets me do one fundraiser at a time. And I'm trying to raise for all three. Maybe that's a little bit ambitious. Maybe I'll like trim it down in the future, but first year doing this and just testing the waters, seeing how everything works. I'm just looking at my pose reference, figure out how I'm gonna draw Poison here. Yeah, Poison's base design has her with very long hair. Pink is not a good color for the sketch, because I can't fucking see it against the white. The short hair is what they gave her starting, I believe, in Street Fighter V. They gave her like this like spiky bob cut, which is pretty sick. Just doing like a little gesture drawing real quick to figure how we're doing this design. Yeah, Poison fights with a whip. And then, like, it's interesting, too, because when you go over, like, the storyline stuff for Poison, it's like, oh, yeah, she was an orphan kid, grew up in an orphanage, joined a gang, and then got out of the gang life and went off and became a manager for a wrestling company, which is pretty funny. And there's a couple other characters in the games, like Abigail and Hugo, who are characters that actually work for Poison in her like wrestling organization. And a lot of that's like, oh, well, you know, she has like a soft spot for people with tough upbringings like hers. Try not to accidentally give her like weird blown out proportions. Probably would have helped if I actually looked up what her canon height is before I started doing this, but here we are. A 5'9". Thank you for pulling that up. A little deep in now, and I also didn't set up my canvas to have my measuring lines on it. And also, for anybody who asks, I usually have these little like measuring lines on my canvas because I'm very bad at judging how many heads something should be, or like what the exact dimension of a character's head should be by eye. So I need the spaces between my lines in order for me to figure that out. Because I'm fucking terrible at eyeballing that. Sue me. But don't really sue me. If you do, the only thing you can get out of it is me, and I'm not sure you want that. I'm going to look at my poison reference. I need to see exactly how her shoes are. I guess that's my Ko-fi bot. You guys can ignore that because this month is not about my commissions. It's about fundraising. Trying to see her fucking shoes so I can get their shape. Thankfully, she's wearing heels, and those are easier to draw, in my opinion, than most shoes. It's 90% fucking point. I'm just getting a rough shape down. I will refine it in post. I'm gonna have to move some things around. Shrink this down, move it up a little bit. Yeah. Well, since we're gonna be here for a while, if anyone has any questions or anything fun they want to throw out there or bring up, I'm all ears. Because I do tend to not talk much when I get really into the drawing. Still working on that. There you go. Yes, it is a little bit difficult to adjust to, especially if, like, I can be quite a bit of a yapper, but once I'm out of things to talk about, I will just stop talking. Which, surprise, surprise, is not good for content. Okay. 90% of Poison's costume design is just accessories, dude. She wears a tank top that barely classifies as clothing and some Daisy Duke shorts and heels. Everything else is accessories. Let's see. I'm trying to get a better look at that to see if there's any other weird elements to it I can't see. She's got this little, like, armband. She has thick thighs to save lives. Astonished she's doing it in heels. Right? Yeah, dude. I'll say this much. When Yatsuda was designing Poison, man cooked. He's like, yeah, I just want to draw a thick girl in short shorts that'll beat my ass with a whip and then make me thank her for doing it. It's like, you know what, man? I can appreciate that. You know what you're about. That's. I genuinely wish more people could be that honest about the things that they want. And then she's got this, like, the Poison's pants stay unbuttoned. She's got this, like, chunky ass chain belt, which isn't even really being used as a belt. It's just kind of around her waist for fun. It's okay, Yatsu. I'm seeing the vision. I understand. Do I plan on drawing the long or the short hair? I don't know yet. I do really like Poison with short hair. The long hair is definitely the more classic version of her design, but I just think the short hair looks better. I'll probably try both and see which one I like more, just to, because it's really just about the feeling. Poison's also one of the characters I'm hoping they bring back for Street Fighter 6. But I don't know, they've been making some... Capcom's been making some weird-ass decisions with Street Fighter 6 so far. It's gonna annoy me if I don't get this other foot in here. So those will get refined as we move through the piece. Just need to have them indicated. Do they cycle through characters? Sometimes. At least from, like, Street Fighter, from the beginning of Street Fighter up until around, like, Street Fighter 4, it was basically just, they had a roster. Oh, there's a ad break. according to this. So we'll wait. Let's see. All right. To answer your question, whether or not they cycle through characters, basically from like the beginning of Street Fighter up until like Street Fighter 4, the way that it felt like it was done was basically they had a starting roster at the very beginning, which for the first couple of games expanded by like maybe one or two characters every so often. And then in Street Fighter 4, Capcom just kind of completely lost their shit. And for Street Fighter 4, they released like 5 different versions of the game. That's mildly hyperbolic. There's legitimately 3 or 4. But each version of the game, because this was like the pre-DLC days, each version of the game basically expanded the roster more and more. And then a lot of those characters got cut in Street Fighter V. They trimmed down the starting roster quite a bit. And then they did like DLC packs where you could get a couple more characters. And then now in Street Fighter 6, they had a very, very bare bones starting roster, which is actually still pretty small even after a couple DLCs. But that seems to be, since like Street Fighter 5, it seems that their methodology going forward is they have a starting roster and they release DLCs to add more characters, and at some point they just cut it off. We just don't know what the cutoff's going to be. It's this little bangle bracelet. I need to mute this server. Yeah, there's a little bit of like nuance in fighting games, but for the most part, there's not a whole lot of like story elements, or at least not a whole lot of story elements that make sense to most people. Street Fighter's been around for a long time and does technically have a really long and intricate story, but the problem with fighting games where story is concerned is that it's not story you get through playing the game. It's all story that's usually added in like external media, usually added in like weird epistolary fashions, like finding like getting rewards in game, or getting like little things that you can imply from like character quotations. So like there's not really a whole lot to gather. Most of the character's story is communicated through the character's fighting style in fighting games. And I mean, like, you could have something like Street Fighter, which tries to give you a story but does it in like side media, or you can do like the Mortal Kombat way, which is like trying to integrate a story directly into the fighting game and then you fuck it up. Do all the characters know of each other, or are there some that never interact with one another? There is an assumption that almost all of the characters know about each other in some degree or another. They've all crossed paths in some way, shape, or form at one time or another for any of a dozen different reasons. And like there are going to be certain characters who are part of organizations or part of like crossover teams basically that are going to be more intimately familiar with one another. But there's a general assumption that most of the characters at least kind of know about each other. They may not all be, strictly friends or enemies, but they've all at least met each other on a couple occasions for one reason or another. As I am looking at this, as I'm looking at this sketch, I'm realizing that I may have made Poison a little too wide. Because Poison is, she's thickish, but she's also very like thin, if that makes any sense. She has a very like, what's the word that I'm looking for? She has the model figure. So there's a possibility that I may need to make some little adjustments in the final version. But I'm also kind of just okay with having thick Poison and calling it a day. Besides, it's just a sketch. I need to figure out some headroom stuff here. And here's how I'm going to cheat on the facial features. I'm going to flip the canvas. It doesn't look as bad in the other direction, but we'll figure it out. Going off my reference, that should be a little bit different. Let's clear up some of these lines so I don't fucking make it harder on myself. Let me see. Yeah, I'm planning on doing a couple little like collaborations with a few friends who like the idea for these fundraisers. So we're gonna be talking a little bit about their experiences, and we're basically just gonna game and bullshit with each other when they come on. Um, I'll have my friend Melissa on at some point to do a Street Fighter stream again, and probably just get my ass beat like last time. Um, my friend Bryn suggested the idea of coming on and doing like a Genshin stream, which I'm like, that's a hard maybe, just because like Genshin's not very entertaining to stream when you're doing co-op usually, because like it is just you and the other person. Like it's basically just about your banter. Um, I have another potential guest that I'm not going to say too much about just yet, just in case things fall through. Um, Mm-hmm. Tell you right now, I know that her head's too big. So, adjust. First day back is always the rough one. Trying to soften her expression a little bit so she looks less like she's trying to murder me. So this is the short hair. So I was like just kind of vibing out to the music. What the fuck was that? Whatever, doesn't matter. For all intents and purposes, let's see if we can start refining this for the purpose of line art. The question is where to start. whatever. Now we have an ad starting in 50 seconds. Can we leave those because we're going to add color later. Then oh, we got it. Yeah, it's still going. Good to know. I don't feel nearly as bad about stopping myself from starting to talk. Anyway, for someone who's never, been to the stream before and hasn't watched me physically draw at any point, nothing about my process is particularly that efficient a lot of the time. Nor do I expect a lot of it to make sense to anybody. If you have questions about why I make certain choices, feel free to ask. If I can give you an answer, I will. If not, I will make something up. Mr. Rush, welcome in. Glad to see you. I'm also going to specify, because I'm sure the question will come up eventually from somebody, uh, that yeah, I'm doing some fundraisers for LGBT uh, organizations this month for Pride. I myself am not technically part of that community. Like, I'm just some straight guy, but I also describe myself typically as like I'm a token straight guy in a pretty large friend group of people who are primarily not straight. So it's kind of like, yeah, this is kind of my job to, like, it's something that I have to do for the sake of, people that I care about and people that I don't know that I will never know. And that's just because, like, we live, let's be real for a second here. Right now, more than before, honestly, we live in some really questionable and scary times politically, especially for any kind of marginalized person. So anything that we can do as a community to make things better for everyone is something that we should be doing, especially in a system that is consistently attempting to strip people of their rights, as long as you're not straight and white. So that's just a thing where I feel the need to do something about it, because if this is something that I can do, then it's what I'm going to do. On top of that, there's also a part of me that's like, when I was in high school, I was caught up in a lot of my own shit, as far as like, daily life struggles. And I had quite a few friends who struggled quite a bit with the thought of coming out to their parents, which at the time I dismissed as like, it's really not that big of a deal, right? Because I knew at the time, at least, that in my household, it probably wouldn't have been that big of a deal with my family. Because, I don't know, my dad was kind of weird about things when it came to like homosexuality, but he wasn't like an out and out homophobe, which is one of the rare good things I can say about my dad. And most of my friends that I knew at the time figured out what they were because of conversations or books that they had borrowed from my mom. So it's very much like me doing this stuff now is kind of like a really weird retroactive attempt at trying to be a better friend and a better ally to the friends that I had back then who were struggling. Especially one of my friends in particular. I won't mention his name, and because it's not really my story to be telling, but I'll give the long and short of it, which is he came out to his mom, and his mom more or less basically disowned him. Like, they were living in a house together, but she kind of wouldn't acknowledge that part of him and just kind of kept writing it off as like, oh, you're young, this is just a phase, you'll grow out of it kind of shit. And it was one of the few times in my life that I learned very quickly that I could hate somebody else's family more than I hated mine. And that was a weird realization to have, because like it was something that bothered him very deeply at the time, because he cared about his mom's opinion of him. Like, his mom was someone that he idolized growing up. So to have the person that you care most about in this whole world, who's supposed to care about you and protect you, tell you that what you are isn't valid to them is world shattering. So it's very much just like, at the time I was too caught up in the shit going on with my own family to really be properly sensitive about that kind of thing. Plus, I mean, teenagers are awful, and I was no exception to that rule. So, it was very much like, I wasn't very empathetic, and it haunts me a little bit now. So it's one of those things where I'm like, it doesn't matter. It probably wouldn't matter to him if he and I were still like as close as we used to be. But it's one of those things where I'm like, I feel like I owe this to people I knew back then that were going through that kind of shit. On the opposite end, I had another friend who came out to their family and pretty much had their parents shrug and go, "Yeah, we know. We already knew." And they pretty much just told him, like, "Yeah, we know. We were just waiting for you to either A, figure it out for yourself, or B, feel confident enough to tell us that that's how we felt, that's who you were." And it was a funny thing to see happen because this person had agonized over telling their family for such a long time, just for both of their parents to kind of like eye roll when they said it and be like, "Yeah, we already knew that. Like, what? We were just waiting for you to say it. Like, do you feel better now? Can we go back to having dinner?" And it was like nothing changed, and that was kind of funny. Like, obviously, it's not funny to think that like if you're a parent, it's probably not funny to think that, like, oh, my kid was terrified to tell me this for like the better part of 2 years, but then to have them come out and like try and add some levity to it, it's always a tough conversation to approach. Yeah, I could imagine. And, for me, it's one of those things where, like, I'm glad that so many of my friends were able to have those kinds of conversations with my mom when I was younger. Because, my mom was always somebody who was very open and easy to talk to about topics like that, because her logic was always, it's better that you talk to someone that you trust about it and learn about it in a safe environment than go out and start experimenting and end up, in trouble. At least that's how my mom approached things back then. These days, I don't think that would be my mom's approach to anything, because she's kind of been Baptist brain rotted. But, there was at least a point where my mom was a reasonable person that could be spoken to about these kinds of things. That hand is so far out of proportion. We'll figure it out. Welcome back, sir. I need to redesign those emotes at some point. Not for any other reason than, like, I don't know, the transparency worked really weird on them, and now I'm just like not super happy with them. So I think I just need to readjust them to make them a little more visually legible. Also, I have a lot of weird commands in here to our favorite celery stalk. Yeah, there's a lot of weird commands in the chat that you can use for various purposes. Gabe could probably demonstrate them if he wanted to, just because it would save me from having to stop drawing. So class. Barbarian. Artificer. Sure, I'll get it on the class. Why not? Cleric, of course. What else would it be? I think the last couple times I've demonstrated that command, I got Cleric. I will eventually redo my sub goals and have like a command for everyone to see what they are. I just haven't really been thinking about it since I haven't really been streaming as much, but I'm trying to get back into it. I need healing. Easy there, Genji. Let's see. Then there's roll 1d20, which will just give you a random d20 roll. There's also a command that I don't know if it still works. Yeah, you have to add the d20. It works like the old Avray command from the Discord server. Nat 1. There's also one that I don't use super often, which is the loot command. If you use the loot command, whatever number it tells you find for gold, I will go later in the moderation and I will actually give that to you for channel points. That's the big joke about that command. Jesus fucking Christ. The problem with that command, the reason why I don't bring it up super often, is because I was originally going to set it up so that it had like a 24-hour cooldown, and so that way each person in chat could only do it once. But I don't actually know how to set up commands like that. Can I get 506 gold IRL, please? Dude, honestly. This man comes in, loots the chest, and almost gets the maximum that it'll let him get. You're 9 gold short of getting the cap. Guy who's never here gets almost 1,000 channel points for logging in. I will be doing that stuff off stream later, just because I never fuck around with the moderation, so I don't know where to. Had to leave some for the rest. He did his dailies. My command is ban that guy. Ban this fucking dude. What's another? Oh, we also have the bromance command. Let me see if I can find it. Gotta make sure that's the right one. Game suggestion. All right. I have to add the person. Fuck you. I lost the game. Oh, that was quick. Oh shit. Thanks for the prime. I need to go look at my own command to see how the syntax is set up, because I'm a fool. Yes, we're going to take valuable time away from this drawing so I can figure this out. Look at my chat bot, chat commands, custom commands. Maybe I just type in the word. See, pay to win, can't ban me now. Wow. Yeah, that really is how that works. God, I can't remember how to do this. Here we go. Damn, only a 19% bromance. Can't believe this. You know, maybe a few more of those, it'll make the number go up. Yikes. Yeah, completely incompatible. But yeah, you can, if you type in the bromance and at anybody in the chat, it'll give you that little random number. It's just a funny little mini game I threw in there for fun. Trying to see what other weird ass commands we have in here. Oh, I have the attributes one. Strength 6, Dex 6, Con 14, Intelligence 10, Wisdom 16, Charisma 13. Yeah, that tracks. Con 13, Wisdom in 12. There's also Lineage, which will give you your D&D race. Unless I misspelled the fucking word. Ah, there it is. I got... Hobgoblin. And then I hit the button and it tells me I'm a fucking tiefling. It's like a... I swear I didn't rig this, but somehow it just gives me the race and class I'd probably play anyway. Might have to put in the command again. Sometimes it just stops. Also, guys, we have an ad coming up in 7 minutes. It might just be the global cooldown on the command. I cast Fireball. Well, I haven't added a command for that yet. Maybe that's what we'll do. We'll start adding some... I didn't ask how big the room was. I said I cast Fireball. See, that's what we're going to do. We're going to run a D&D game at some point where we're all just going to be in chat playing. And I'm just going to have everyone do all their shit using the commands in the actual chat bot. It's going to be fucking chaotic. We'll set the chat to subscribers only, so that way I don't miss anybody's stuff. I'd like to use my class ability to reroll my stats. Yeah, sure, why not? What's the worst that could happen? No, I can't bend the waist. Nice 6 in strength, yeah. No contested grapple checks for you, buddy boy. My favorite thing, thinking about the whole poison thing as a character, is the fact that IDOM went to Capcom Cup, that one of the years that he won, played Poison as his main with Laura as his secondary, ended up winning playing Laura because he was up against Punk, and Poison just wasn't doing well against Punk's picks. And then that man wins, and they're like, cool, you're the Capcom Cup winner. You get to make a skin for a new character. Or you get to make a new skin for your character. And he decided to give Laura a fucking outfit that was a Capcom varsity jacket and fucking Tim's. Imagine getting your ass beat by a chick doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu wearing the dead asses. Yeah, it's honestly one of the craziest skin choices ever to do that for a character. Also, go figure, this motherfucker comes in the day that I'm drawing, at one of everyone's favorite toxic pink-haired girls. So what I gotta do to get Yang to show up to streams is just draw girls with pink hair. I'll need new Tims this season, but they're not ripe for the picking yet. Felt a disturbance in the force. Don't worry, sometime later on this month, I'll draw 02 on stream. Just for fun. I know we've talked about Darling and the Franxx too much in the last couple of weeks, so now I feel like I'm obligated to draw something from it. And Darling and in the Glizzy's more like it. Oh man, as a wise Salali once called it, Evangelion for cucks. Which is still a wild statement to me because you're trying to imply that Evangelion wasn't already for cucks. I don't know, I guess I can't say a whole lot about Evangelion. I've never actually finished watching that show. Or really started, for that matter. Also, what do you guys think of the mic quality? This is not the mic that I usually use for streaming. Craig got himself a new mic and then asked me if I wanted this one because he wasn't going to be using it. And this one has like 5 different broadcasting modes. Do you have to watch it from a chair in the corner? Ooh. Yeah, man. I only watch Darling in the Franxx from the extra chair that I keep in the corner of my bedroom. Which is completely out of sight of the TV, so that way I'm not watching the show, I'm just listening to it, you know? Oop, ad break. You have to set up a random mirror on the bed so you can watch the bed and watch the reflection of the show. Jesus Christ. You have to watch through a toilet paper tube pointed at a walkie-talkie. Watching anime through a glory hole. Jesus Christ. What in the magic cylinder? Hey, lucky number 13. Also, I'm not gonna lie. I think for the fundraiser stuff, I think maybe this month is the perfect time to go and what was I gonna say? Might be the perfect month to go back through Life is Strange. 199. I haven't seen any spoilers for Double Exposure yet. I would love to pick up Double Exposure and just like marathon all three games. Maybe that'll be like maybe that's how we close out the month for the fundraiser streams. Is we just fucking marathon through all of the Caulfield Saga games. So we do Before the Storm, OG Life is Strange, and Double Exposure all back to back. Hello, and welcome in to the other viewers. Yeah, Life is Strange is definitely on theme for the month. I'm also going to put this in once again, just as a reminder. So all these links are the Tiltify links for our different fundraisers for the Trevor Project, Trans Lifeline, and Stonewall Community Foundation. And we have their info scrolling up there in the corner of the screen. I might adjust the slideshow at some point, so that way it's a little bit slower so people can see the info and take it down. Or if you watch the VOD on YouTube after I post it, you can just pause and copy down whatever information. Or you can do these two commands, which are !Trevor and !Lifeline, which will give you information on the Trevor Project and Trans Lifeline. I forgot to make one for Stonewall Community Foundation. I'll be doing that later. But yeah, we got a lot of stuff going on. And the Tiltify links are there just so anybody who wants to donate can go and donate. The money goes directly to the organization, never passes through my hands or anyone else's, to my knowledge. And for anyone who doesn't know, Trans Lifeline does peer-to-peer crisis counseling for trans individuals. They also do financial assistance for trans people trying to escape from unhealthy living circumstances. The Trevor Project also does peer-to-peer suicide counseling for LGBT youth. And the Stonewall Community Foundation does like micro grants and stuff for LGBT individuals. They also have a subsidiary called the Stonewall Housing Foundation, which basically does financial and housing assistance for LGBT people trying to escape from dangerous situations. And And they do like a lot of community outreach stuff. They do like, what's the word I'm looking for? They do a lot of like activism. So all of these goes directly into my hands. Don't say that. But yeah, so all of these organizations are very helpful. They do good work. One of the games I am intending on doing at some point this month, I'm not sure when, there's a game on Steam called The Endless Empty. The Endless Empty is literally about a character who has recently died and is piecing their life back together through memories from the other side. The developers of The Endless Empty develop 100% of their proceeds to the Trevor Project, or at least they did last I checked. So I will probably be purchasing and playing The Endless Empty at some point on stream this month. Like I said, I have a couple collaboration streams I'm planning on doing this month with a few friends. There's a chance that me and my friend Bryn will be streaming Genshin together. I'm not entirely sure what the fuck we're going to be doing, but we'll be probably doing that. And I announced this earlier, but you guys weren't here. I will also be doing another Street Fighter stream with Melissa. So there's a high probability it's just going to be another stream of me getting my ass beat. Collab hand-holding stream. Yeah, man. It'll be... Oh, I just realized I never turned on my VTuber because I'm a fool. Whatever. It's too late now. I'm not turning it back. I'm not turning it on now. Yeah, we'll do that. We'll have some little PNG tubers, and we'll have a camera that's just our hands, and it'll just be us holding hands and chatting over the course of the stream time. Although in this weather, that's gonna feel really gross after like the first 10 minutes. Yeah, sure. Since you asked, I will turn on the thing, and OBS should just pick it up. Assuming I have that source turned on. Oh, it's giving me a weird default. There we go. Yep. Well, it's on now, so there's no point in me turning it back off. Are you sure you can handle holding my hand for that long? Absolutely not. In this weather, dude, I think the cap is like 30 seconds before we both start feeling like we dipped our hands into a bucket of sensory slime. I was wondering when the fuck you turned into some deer girl. That's later this month. That's not right now. That's the finale stream. That'll be the stream where we talk about Bambi lesbians. Which is a thing that I have to do a little bit more. The VTuber Caterpillar Metamorphosis, Kafka-esque streamer. You know, I think it'd be fun for Halloween to do like a whole like Kafka-esque like overlay and everything. That'd be sick as fuck. I just don't have the artistic skill or the patience to do all of that. These hands are going to haunt me. I'll work on those a little bit later. And I'm just going to do some line thickening. I'm cosplaying my best. Cosplaying waking up as a bug at some point. Hell yeah. But yeah, so today's stream was all about poison. I'm planning on going over like more stuff that's just about like LGBT stuff in media as we go over the course of the month for the different streams. I already know what tomorrow's topic is going to be, and it's going to be a very not fun one for a lot of people, but it's something that I think we should be talking about, and that's going to be, Hays Code stuff. We're primarily going to be talking about it because it's just an important thing to go over. Also, it's really hilarious how the Hays Code eventually got abolished, but that's all stories for tomorrow. I think maybe next Monday stream is one where we're going to talk about the whole Bambi lesbian thing, which has since been expanded into what people call Bambi sexual, which, again, thing we'll get more into. Because there's like a thing that the place where that phrase initially came from was like an LGBT publication, I believe, and I just want to do more research on that before I go presenting the information, so that way we can really dig into it. I would also be remiss to not take the time of Pride Month to draw some Steven Universe fan art at some point. Now we're just texturizing Poison's hair a little bit. Because I'm a sadist and I like to torture myself by adding extra lines to things and figuring out if it still looks good afterward. You mean the laws made by elite drinking freaks who bathe fully clothed? Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Bunch of fucking weirdos, dude. I'll say this as a spoiler for that conversation. Part of the reason why the Hays Code got abolished was a combination of A, filmmakers just stopped obeying it because it was frustrating and fucking stupid. And then on the other end of it, they actually were forced to dismantle the code because of the Monopolies Commission. Because they're like, well, a bunch of people are sitting here, like we have one organization, the Motion Picture Association, which oversaw and utilized the Hays Code. And because of that, there is a whole thing that's like, well, independent filmmakers and filmmakers that don't even work with you have to adhere to your rules for how films should be made. That makes you a monopoly, so you need to stop this shit. Which is really fucking funny. And again, it was just like filmmakers in general were just getting annoyed with it, because even the guys who had to like review films and scripts in order to determine whether or not they match the code weren't taking the job seriously because it was just too much work. There were two offices that handled all the reviews for movie scripts, and the two offices between them had maybe 150 employees, which was not enough people to proofread every single film script that came in at the time. Because these are like There were 150 people across 2 offices that were clear across the country from each other, one in New York, one in California, I believe. And both of them had to proofread hundreds of scripts like per day. It just wasn't going to happen. Like, it was just never sustainable. Um, I would make a film that broke every single rule just because even today people would clutch pearls because are we really that far off from it? Honestly, considering how much people freak out about like representation of any kind in film and in television, you could you can make people clutch their pearls just by doing the most like basic shit. You know, like having a gay parent in a fucking children's show. Like I was scrolling around Facebook a couple days ago and I saw a an Owl House fan page posting art of all of the different characters with their pride flags, and the number of comments on that image of people yelling and shouting and screaming about like, why do these characters' sexualities matter? It's a children's show, and it's like, if you really need this explained to you, you're actually too stupid to be having this conversation. Like, if you don't understand why the representation matters and why it should be in a children's show, you're an idiot. Also, to be entirely fair, it's like most of the, like, if you're going to complain that these characters have canonical sexualities, then, like, one, get over yourself. And two, it's not like these things, with the exception of 2 of the characters, it's something that never actually comes up over the course of the show. Um, that, you know, the Disney sponsors suck ass, or the Disney censors suck ass, which is why Dana Terrence and Alex Hirsch have spent a lot of time fighting with them. My favorite kid show is The Twilight Zone, and it's always on because we're living in it now. Honestly, there's some shit that's happened in the last couple of years I don't think The Twilight Zone could even make an entertaining episode about. It's like when Craig and I were talking about The Onion, and he's like, bro, The Onion should actually just be out of business at this rate because they can't publish any piece of satire that's more ridiculous than what we're actually going through. Also, I'm going to ask a serious question to the chat right now. So, obviously, we're drawing our girl Poison, and canonically, Poison keeps her shorts right here unbuttoned. And my question is, do we add like a little underwear waistband here to kind of imply that there's something under there? Or do we just go like the extra mile and just do like, do we just do a little like, a little bit of bush? Like, what are we thinking? Obviously, nobody has to answer that question if they don't want to. I'm asking to get everyone involved. Commando, I always say. Alrighty then. Yeah, we'll save that for off stream just so Twitch doesn't give me shit. Yeah, as you can see, I'm just like taking some areas and darkening some lines. adding some like chunky occlusion shadows just to add some depth to the piece. Thank you. Yeah, this is just like a whole process. Just gotta like taper these lines and just pick areas to just like add some extra thickness to the lines so that way it looks like there's a shadow falling over it. And when you do shadows like this in the line art, it actually does manage to make the final like colors pop a little bit more, which is always nice. You know, we'll include a little bit of vocabulary for people. So occlusion shadows, if you're talking about art theory type stuff, occlusion is basically like the area where surfaces overlap. So in any area where you have overlapping surfaces or textures, you should add a little bit of extra line weight in those areas to further define them. I will say a lot of the stuff that I do on stream, art-wise, for me at least, ends up looking a lot worse than stuff that I draw off-stream by myself. Part of that just because of the fact that I very easily get nervous doing anything when people are watching me do it. That's always been a problem. Honestly, I think it's a thing that comes from like in high school. So I went to a vocational high school. And in my junior year, we had to take an exam called NOCTI. And the NOCTI exam was basically like your standardized like school testing, but for your shop specialization. And we have an ad coming in 2 minutes, so at any point I might stop this just so we can pick up afterward. I was in school for electronics and engineering. So when the NOCTI exam came around, we had to travel to another school in another town, and our test was overseen by actual military officials who acted as our proctors. So each of our tables had 2 workbenches for us and the person across from us, and then a literal soldier in full uniform and armed standing next to our table with a clipboard to record our results and to check what we do. And that was just a layer of stress I didn't fucking need at the age of 17. Especially when I was one of those people who had the problem where I was really good at the theory for electronics. Like, I can read and interpret and draw circuit diagrams, but I'm very bad at building circuits. So a lot of my circuits, when I built them on my own time, had a tendency to burn out or explode. So the idea of being watched by somebody while I'm doing that just did not help. And I think that's just a thing that's carried over into doing art on stream. Like, it just makes me jittery being watched while I'm doing stuff. You don't love people looking over your shoulder while you work? No. Just pretend I'm always watching. Easy. Yeah, totally. So the ad should be starting. So what do you mean it's not comforting? Alright, welcome back from the ad break. The more I darken these lines, the more that Poison starts to look like a kind of like a coloring book page to me. Alright, let's see what else we can do. Where else can we add some line thickness? Oh, we also have this fun little thing, which is the support command. So if you put that in, it'll randomly spit out the channel for one of the people that I know who still streams. Out of like the people that I regularly interact with. Like in this case, it spat out Mukubism, who is a friend of mine who streams art, and recently she's been streaming Elite Dangerous and Cyberpunk 2077. We're both trying to get back into streaming more consistently because we have a very similar problem where every time we start doing it, something happens, and it's like, well, I just don't have the time or the energy to stream now. So whenever she is live, definitely worth checking out. It's always a chill time. And I always have fun sitting in on the art streams. I didn't do what I usually do for my warm-up today, where I do like a study of a particular artist, partially because I just didn't have one prepared to do, and also because I don't know, I've been having this weird pain in my wrist this week, so I decided I would much rather just do like some little hand exercises. Figure it out later. Pain in the wrist. Uh-oh, got a nerf pig. Yeah, man. That's just how it works. Dead by Daylight here is that someone who plays pig is existing, and they're just like, got a nerfer again. Does anyone even still play that character aside from like Scorpions if he hasn't been canceled yet for something? Well, that's an idea for stream this month. Do a little Dead by Daylight Survivor streaming, just playing Kate all day. I'm sure there's an Order of the Hog that only play at 6:66 a.m. Yeah, man. 6 minutes and 6 seconds past 6 o'clock. Howdy, Fox. Welcome in. Glad to see you. I am using your recommendation for the music. Thanks again for that. Man, I wish I could remember how I drew the first one. Sometimes trying to draw shoes is like just one of those things that just completely sucks my memory. Working out well? Yeah, very much. And we'll be damned. I mean, I could also just be really super lazy here and just do a little copy paste. No. We'll just come back to the foot later. I'm going to define all those little border areas. Oh, ow. Mm. kind of vibing. Not sure why. How Poison's face came out vaguely reminds me of JoJo's. Not a complaint, just a weird thing that I just thought of as I'm doing this. I need to figure out how the fuck I did this hand shape on the sketch. There's like 10,000 things in there. That is a weird choice. They made Poison's weapon this kind of long ass bullwhip, but it still has a riding crop tip, which is not accurate. At least I don't believe so. I'm no whip expert. I do, however, they know the difference in construction between a riding crop and a bullwhip. I have to believe you. Well, that's the best part. When have I ever led you astray? Since I started counting? Wow. I want to try and use this asset brush to make her little chain belt thing. It's not very good at it though. Might just have to raw dog it the old fashioned way. It's really funny because her belt does have those same big ass links, which means I do have a way to account for it. Links are about the same size. We'll just There we go. So I remove this. Give that a look-see. Not the worst looking thing I've done. Also, fun fact about Poison's design that I left out earlier because I'd forgotten about it until now. Poison gets her name from the band Poison. We got an ad in 5 seconds. All right. Okay. Ow. Aside from a few areas that we need to work on, which I'm going to take some time to do off stream before I post the finished piece, I'm actually really happy with how Poison's coming out. So, Well, we're getting close to 11, which is my cutoff point for today. But I just wanted to say thanks to everybody for showing up today and hanging out. I will once again put out the fundraiser links. So yeah, feel free to donate to these organizations if you can, or if not, then, I'm going to be putting up this VOD probably tomorrow morning. So once the VOD goes up, I'll be posting the link to Blue Sky. Feel free to share the VOD around, share around the links, because I'm going to put, every time I do an art piece for one of these streams, once the piece is finished, I'm going to be posting it to Blue Sky with all the fundraiser links attached. So, share that stuff around. If you see any other artists sharing things, just raise awareness that these resources are out there. And, if you can, take some time, bring it up on your streams or what have you. Just, let's just be a better community this Pride, That said, again, thanks everybody for being here. Really appreciate it. And I will see y'all tomorrow night. I don't know what I'm going to actually be drawing tomorrow. I just know what we'll be talking about. But until then, you guys take it easy. Enjoy the rest of your night. And, yeah. Goodbye.